All right, today we have a 2010 Ford Escape. The air conditioning has quit working on it. Our customer had it checked out by the dealership, and they said the AC condenser is bad. And so they've come to us to have the part replaced. So we're going to show you how to replace the AC condenser. Well, there's one thing on the AC job we wanted to point out, is that it's not necessarily a job you want to be doing unless you have quite a bit of automotive experience. We're going to show you how to do it, and by all means you're welcome to do it, but we do recommend, if you don't have a lot of automotive experience, that you bring it to a shop with AC qualified technicians. So we're going to show you how to do it anyway, but just keep that in mind, that the AC system is such a complicated system, it's often best to have the professionals do this job. So, all right, well, we'll get started. Okay, we've got the truck up in the air. Now on this particular condenser job, the front bumper cover has to come off. You can see the condenser is right behind the bumper. I'm going to show you this a little better once we get the bumper cover off, but right in this corner is where there's a bunch of AC leak detection dye that the dealership used. So I'll show you that once we get the bumper cover off. So we're going to start by taking this cover off here. All right, on the bumper cover here, you'll see it's got these little clips. The center part of the clip pulls out, and then once that comes out, the rest of it will come out, like so. Just so I don't lose it, I'm going to put the clip partially back in and set those aside like that. I'm going to go ahead and pull all these out. Underneath here, there's a couple bolts I need to undo. Okay, that should be enough. That gives us enough room to pull the wheel well back. There's going to be bolts up in here that we need to get to, so that's why we had to pull this back. Okay, we're on the other side. We're going to do the same exact thing. Take these clips out and those bolts on the bottom. Okay, right now we're looking underneath the wheel well. We've got the wheel well liner pulled back so we can get access. You can see on the inside here there's a clip. To release this clip, you just push down on it and then pull out on the edge of the bumper cover. And at that point you'll see that this part of the bumper cover is released. So there's a few more things to disconnect. So we'll go ahead and start on those now. You can see here it's free from that corner. But that's how those clips work. All right, we are underneath the front of the bumper now. We're going to take off. There are 3 10-millimeter bolts under here we need to remove. So I'll just go ahead and take all 3 of these out. That's one. And you got one right in the center here. And 3. You can see now the bumper's starting to loosen up. Okay, we've got 2 more of these clips right up here. This is the lower opening on the radiator grill, or I'm sorry, on the front bumper. So we got 2 more of those clips to undo, just like the other ones. Take the center piece out first, and then the other part will come out. Well, it's supposed to. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll leave that one in there for now. We got one more over here. Okay. All right, you can see each time we get a little more undone, bumper gets looser and looser. All right, we've got the truck back on the ground. We got 2 bolts in the top of the radiator grill here. We go ahead and take those out. Okay, now you can see The grill itself is loose. Okay, now the bumper cover is almost all the way off. There's actually two more of those plastic clips behind here, like that very first one that I showed you, where you push in on the top and pop it out. So I'll get up in here and try to get these two undone also. Now once you get this bumper cover off partway, you want to go ahead and disconnect the fog light plug. Just squeeze it and unplug it. Now we'll kind of prop it up as we undo the other side, and then the whole thing should come right off. Okay, we've got this side loose. We're going to do the same thing. Unplug the fog light. And with two people, you're going to want to remove this grill. So I'm going to enlist my cameraman here, see if he'll help me grab half this. Just grab half of it and pull it straight off. And we want to set it aside. There we go. Thanks. Okay, now we can see we have full access to the condenser assembly. We don't even need the UV light to detect the leak on this. You can even see the AC dye just soaking this whole area here. So the condenser must have been leaking right in this area and just literally spraying right out. So it's a bad leak. But at this point, our next step is going to be to just pull up this little shield here. It's got a couple quick release. You got a couple of these little Christmas tree type tabs. You just pry out. Oh yeah. And then you just lift it up and work it out. We'll set that cover aside. Also going to do the same thing with this little plastic shield here, just to get everything. The more room you have, the easier it is to work on things like this. So we'll just get that out of our way. And same with this side. Okay, now the AC condenser on this particular truck also has double duty. It also has the transmission cooler built into it. On the top part of it here, this section with these thicker cores is the transmission cooler. It's actually got transmission fluid running through it. And the bottom half with these thinner cores is the AC condenser. So we are going to lose a little bit of transmission fluid when we take these hoses off, because those are transmission lines. The AC lines go in on the other side over there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and disconnect these lines going to the AC condenser. Now, one thing, before we started work on this, we actually had the shop pull out all the refrigerant. You do not want to try to disconnect any of these lines when there's still refrigerant in there, because you're going to vent it out into the atmosphere. So always have the system sucked down before you start work on the actual AC system itself. So, but at this point, there's nothing in it, so we're free to go ahead and take off these lines. Okay, there's our two AC lines off the condenser. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the support bolt right here. Okay, condenser is loose. Last thing to do is to disconnect the transmission lines. Now you want to catch pan you want a catch pan underneath here, because when we take these off, it's going to leak some transmission fluid. And you don't want to spill that all over the ground in your workplace. All right, so we're going to go ahead and disconnect these clamps on the transmission hoses. Actually, that's only a couple drops, so not too bad. Now at this point, the condenser is ready to come out. You've got the bolts undone, the 2 transmission lines undone, and the AC hoses undone. So all you do is pull it forward a little bit, and just give it a little tug, and it'll come straight out. So here's our condenser and transmission cooler assembly out of the vehicle. Now I'm going to go ahead and unbox our new one that we got from APDTY, and I'm going to set it right next to, and you can see they're identical. It's got the transmission cooler in the top half, bottom half's the condenser, same exact fittings, same mounting location, and everything. So we'll go ahead and slide this in. We're going to leave these little caps on until we're ready to reconnect the AC lines. It goes in the same way. You just drop it in. You give it a little push down, and these, I don't know if you can see those, but they've got little clips that hold it in place, and it'll just fall in. Go ahead and slide our transmission lines back on. And put our clamps back up. And we're going to put our bolts back in. All right, new condensers installed. Okay, we've got our seal kits for the condenser now, so we're going to go ahead and replace the seals on the condenser. All right, we're just going to slide our lines back over the studs here, pop them on, and then we just have to tighten down the nuts for that hold it to the condenser. Okay, so now the condenser is completely in with the lines attached and everything. So we've got our top line tight. This bottom line actually went to go tighten it, and then we realized that this is actually the line which is part of the dryer. So we're just going to leave this off for now, and when we put the new dryer on, we'll put that in. All right, so we're gonna turn our attention to replacing the dryer here. Okay, here you can see the dryer. It's this assembly here. First thing I'm going to do is just disconnect this electrical plug going to the pressure switch. Now we're going to go ahead and disconnect this 13 millimeter bolt holding this top AC line on. And we're going to pull this AC line off and slide it aside. Now there's two 10 millimeter bolts which hold it to the frame here, or the support here. This wire in our way. There we go. So we'll go ahead and take those two off. Now, just going to wiggle the dryer and get it out of there. And real carefully work it around all the hoses and wires and whatnot that's in your way. Okay, here's our old dryer. Now again, you want to change this every time you open up the air conditioning system. There's desiccant in here which absorbs moisture. Moisture inside the air conditioning system will destroy it. It's the worst thing you can do for it. So yeah, every time you open up the AC system, you want to replace the dryer. And the reason we're doing this last is because you want to keep the new dryer open for as little time as you can before it's sealed up in the system. So we'll grab our new one. All right, here's our new dryer. You can see it's sealed. It's got a plug in the top and a plastic thing on the end. That keeps it sealed, so again, so the desiccant doesn't absorb extra moisture. So what we'll do, we'll just snake this back into place, just like the old one came out. And we're not going to pull off those covers until the very last thing. Okay, go ahead and put our 10 millimeter nuts back on. All right, now we're going to use another one of our seal kits and replace the seal on this line going to the dryer. Now I'm going to pop this plug out and put this line on this pretty quickly. So again, you want to minimize the exposure to the outside air. Okay, now we'll do the same thing with the line going into the condenser. Now the dryer actually already has a new seal kit on this end of it. Okay, to get the expansion valve off, we're going to start by taking off this 13 millimeter nut here right in between those two AC lines. Now we'll pull these lines off. And just push them to the side. Now there's two Torx bits that hold the expansion valve itself to the evaporator. So that's this bolt and this bolt. All right, we're going to go ahead and take these Torx bit bolts out of here. And then the whole expansion valve should come right out of the firewall. Okay, we'll go ahead and pull these out of here. And now, if you're lucky, the whole expansion valve will come right out. So we're just going to wiggle it. Oh, there it goes. That's it. That's the old expansion valve. It's a good idea to replace this anytime you do any kind of AC work. They become old and they stop working, and to keep your AC functioning properly, it's just a good idea to go ahead and change it while you have the system open. Basically what it is, it's a little, you can see the rod going through the center of there, and it opens and closes a little hole to let in a variable amount of refrigerant, and that's just part of how the AC system works. So, without going into too much detail, if you want to read up on it, we do have an article on our autorepairinstructions.com that explains exactly how an AC system works. So, But we'll go ahead and change the O-rings back there. What you're seeing on the firewall is actually the two lines coming off of the evaporator. The evaporator is behind the dashboard, and it's not an easy job to get to that, so hopefully you don't have to mess with that. But we'll go ahead and change those two O-rings and put our new expansion valve in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take off the O-rings coming off the evaporator and slide new ones in place. The new expansion valve does come with these O-rings. So our new O-rings are in place. Now the expansion valve also comes with a new bracket, but there's really, on this particular vehicle, there's no need to use the new one. The old one's already in place. What that does, you can see it inside the hole on the firewall. That's holding the two evaporator lines in place. So we're just going to leave that there so we don't have to mess with it and reuse the one that's in there. Now the new expansion valve also comes with new Torx head screws, which when we install it will go just like that. And when we tighten those down, I have nice new screws in there. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up and get these bolts on. All right, now we'll reinstall our lines going into the expansion valve. Oh, you know what? I forgot one step. You got to install the new stud into the expansion valve. Let's put that in and get it started. Okay, we've got the bumper just hanging on there. We set it on and just started the top two bolts that go on the very top here. You can see it's still completely loose. We did plug in the fog lights while we're in there. So now our next step is just to line everything up. I'm going to go ahead and snap in this top corner on both sides. All you do is line it up and snap it in place, and you'll see that snaps it in. So now all we have to do is go around and put all the little clips and bolts back in for the bumper cover. All right, when reinstalling these clips, all you want to do is start it. Just push that piece that pulls out in part way and slide it all the way in, and then push in the center piece the rest of the way, and that'll hold it in for good. Now I'm going to install the 3 bolts that we took off from underneath the bumper cover. All right, now we're going to put the inner wheel well back on. Again, we have more of these style clips. So just line up the wheel well and snap them in place. And we'll go around and do that for all of these. And then our bolts that we undid from underneath. Okay, this side's fully on. We'll do the same thing with the other side. Okay, so we are completely done replacing all the AC components. All we have now is to evacuate the system, and then we're going to refill it with Freon. Again, this might be something you want to have the professionals do unless you have the correct equipment. It is absolutely crucial that you evacuate the system, which basically means putting a vacuum on it and drawing it down to a complete vacuum, and you leave it there for a while. That draws all the air and the moisture out of the system. You don't want any air, any outside air, to be inside the lines of the AC system. That'll kill the efficiency of the system and might also end up hurting the compressor and other components. So we've got our manifold gauges hooked up to the high pressure, low pressure lines, and the yellow hose goes right to our vacuum pump, which you can see right here. And you can see right now our pressures are, we're going to go ahead and open both of these. Now again, if you're not familiar with these manifold gauges, you may want to go to a pro to have them evacuate and refill the system, because they can be kind of complex. But you'll see when I kick the vacuum pump on, our pressures drop down into the negatives. I mean, we're down at, what is it, about 25 bars of mercury. Looks like it's pulling, which is plenty good. So we'll let it sit here for a while. Oh, you know what? I apologize, I did not open the other valves yet. So we're going to open those now. Now we want to make sure it drops back down to that full vacuum, which will take a little bit longer. But yeah, it is drawing it down. And we're back down to about 25 bars of mercury. So what we're going to do, we're going to let this sit here for probably about a half hour and evacuate the system. As soon as that's done, I'll show you how to refill the Freon, and we'll make sure the system's cold, and then we should be good to go. Okay, we've had our vacuum on the system for about an hour now, which is plenty good to get the air and moisture out of the system. So you can see it's still holding at a real low pressure. What we'll do is go ahead and shut off our manifold gauges, and that'll block off the system between the vacuum pump and the gauges, and we'll shut the vacuum pump off. And you see it's still holding nice vacuum, which means we don't have any major leaks. If you really want to leak check it, you can leave this on here for about a half hour, and the system should hold constant vacuum forever once you draw it down. But we're going to go ahead and shoot it up with Freon. And what we're going to do is go ahead and hook up our refrigerant bottle. This system holds 1.57 pounds. Which is just a tad bit over 2 cans. Each can is 3/4 of a pound. So we're going to end up putting just a tad bit over 2 cans into the system. What we'll do is just go ahead and start with one. And what we'll do is add some with the system off. Now again, this is something you want to be real careful with, and again, we recommend you bring it to a shop to have this done if you're not familiar with manifold gauges. Because you can, if you hook it up wrong, you can actually have these cans explode on you, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to go ahead and shoot some refrigerant in there, just with the system off. It would be just enough to prime it when we start it and get the compressor running. All right, now we're going to go ahead and start it up and let it run. Okay, the compressor never did kick on. So what I'm thinking is that because the system had been completely empty, it may have stored a trouble code, which would prevent the AC system from restarting until the computer's reset. So I'm going to try disconnecting the battery and see if that'll force the system to reset, which very well may allow us to get the compressor to come on. So I'm just going to disconnect the battery for a couple minutes, and we're going to give it another try after that. All right, our compressor came on after reconnecting the battery. All right, our compressor did come on finally. So we're continuing to fill up the system right now. Still got our first can going in there right now. We're going to let that one go in fully, and then we'll add the second one. All right, so we're just topping off our second can now. System is already getting nice and cold, so all we have to do is just finish it up. And other than that, we are done. All that will be left is to disconnect the system, put our caps back on, and after that, we're good to go. So we appreciate you watching. Check us out on Facebook, Facebook/APDTY for our initials. And other than that, we appreciate you watching. Thanks.